Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you today, and I'm going to introduce our very interesting topic today. I really want you to get the best out of today's lesson because it is such a powerful self-improvement book that I found very amusing for myself, and hopefully that will give you the same sense when you go through that with me. So once again, welcome to today's lesson. We have The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And in this book, I first want you to understand that the book is a self-improvement book, but it's done a little bit differently than usual. Stephen actually have studied 200 years worth of self-help books, and he realized that there is a big difference between the books, and his 7 habits summarize and shape up a person as they are. So as a self-help book, I want you to focus on how to be rather than how to appear. And most of the self-help books today help us how to appear and help us to give us information on how we should look in the eyes of others. What I am trying to do with this book is really focus on the ethics that would have you shape up who you are and not necessarily who you appear to be. So with this, the quotes that I'm providing you are all quotes from the book. I have spent some time reading it, and it's one of those books that I would probably go many times reading it, several times, and every time learn something new and internalize something new. The key to successful living is making small, constructive choices consistently. And that is what this book is trying to give you. Small choices made consistently, which will shape your path to the future. This book is providing you 2 main sections. The first section is your private victory. These are the things that shape your personality, and these are habits 1 to 3. And then we have public victory, which I will explain closer to that habit. And these are habits 4 to 7 that allow you to see and show yourself in public and how you would shape yourself. So along with those collective habits, I will summarize them. So this is just a summary slide. I'm going to go over each one of them so you can keep that slide, as your summary. Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first thing first, and I will go over all of these. Think win-win, seek first for understanding and then to be understood, synergize, and sharpen the saw. So let's start with the first one. The first habit has to do with being proactive. So before I go on with this habit, I want you to understand the difference between personality ethics and character ethics. Personality ethics is your public image. It's how you look in the eyes of others. It's how your social interaction is how your appearance is, which is important nevertheless. But the character ethics is your integrity. It's your courage, it's your modesty and the things you do. Personality ethics should be the root in the character ethics. It should be part of your character ethics. Otherwise, it's fake. If your personality ethics is not the same as your actual character, then you're acting your personality. And you can fake it, but eventually it would be seen through. You can't really fake your character ethics. And the character ethics is what I'm actually focusing on today. So you're focusing on your foundation and how you actually perceive. So just to give you a quick example, character ethics would be, let's say what you see below the water. So below the water, you can't see what's in there. That's your character ethics. What's above water, and that's your personality ethics, is very easily to be seen. It's very easy to see how you dress up, how you speak, but the personality is shaped by your character. It is more genuine when it's shaped by your character. So let's first talk about the first habit. And if you don't learn anything from today's presentation, Learn this. This should be the number one habit that's so important to shape your life. Our behavior is a function of our decision, not our conditions. And that's what basically that habit represents. We all have two circles in our life. We have the circle of concern and the circle of influence. The circle of concern is what you're concerned with, but you really can't change. You can't change the weather. You can't change other people's opinions. You cannot change politics. You cannot change what people think about you. You cannot change the economy of the world. And there are so many other things you can't change. You cannot change other people's mistakes. However, the circle of influence are things that you can do, like change your attitude, change your education, change your habits to adjust to what is happening. So reactive people, as opposed to proactive, reactive people complain about things they cannot control. Proactive people don't complain, but take action. I'll give you a simple example. Two people taking an exam, both fail. The reactive person will start complaining that the teacher doesn't know what they're talking about, that the exam was so hard, that the teacher is not fair, grading is not fair, they only failed because of others. The proactive person will say, well, I failed that exam, I have to take actions for the next one, which means studying harder, starting to take more notes, really learning from other sources. And let's say that, the reactive person might be correct. It might be the teacher's fault. It might be that the exam was so hard. It might be all of those factors, but these are things you can't change. This is the teacher you have. This is the material you have. What you do about it is in your hands. And the proactive individual will take actions. Proactive people focus their effort on their circle of influence. They work on things they can do about something rather than complaining about things they cannot do. And so I want you to try this for the next 30 days. Work only in your smaller circle of influence. Make small commitments to yourself and others, but keep them. Don't promise a lot. Promise a little, but make sure you do it. Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Be a solution, not the problem. Try this for 30 days. Remember these three very important parts of this first habit to be proactive. The second habit, begin with the end in mind. Through imagination, we can visualize the uncreated worlds of potentials that lie within us. All things are created twice. The first time, they're created in your head, in your mind. The second time, they're created in the real world. Make sure that you know exactly where you're going. And that's what it means by begin with the end in mind. Begin each day, task, project, or anything else you do with a clear vision of where you want to be. And to understand this a little bit better, think about where you want to be in 5, 10, or 15 years from now. Know your destination. The idea of know your destination comes up in one of the books that I wrote, and it's going to be published next month, at the end of next month, probably starting in Amazon, but it's called Write Your Own Eulogy. If you want to know what people would think about you when you die, write your own eulogy. It's very important that you understand how people see you and why they see you the way they do. One of the best exercise anyone can do to themselves is just take a moment and think, what would people say on my funeral? And that book of mine actually guides you through step by step of how you write your own eulogy, what are the things that you want to change, and that would shape you, because you don't want people to say that you were rich. You don't want people to say that you were poor. You don't want them to say who you were, but rather what you are and who you are. So when you begin with the end in mind, I want to give you that example of a ladder. Let's say a person put a ladder on a wall, okay? And he climbs this ladder for years. It takes time and step by step. And of course, it's just a metaphor. You don't climb a ladder for years, but as a metaphoric example, let's say it's a very, very tall wall, and you keep climbing and climbing and climbing. At the end, you get to the very end and you realize it wasn't even the correct wall you were climbing. And a lot of times in life, if you don't have your goal set up, you're climbing the wrong wall. Make sure that you know what your goal is. Make sure you know where you're going, so then other people don't have to affect your destination. If you have nothing else to, sorry, I take it back. You were not put in this world to just make money and die. This was not your destiny. You're not here to just be rich, buy brand stuff, and all of this. Instead of asking what life has to offer you, ask, what can you offer life? Write the script for your own life. Make your life productive. And if you do nothing at all in terms of having the beginning and the end in your mind, try to think, what do you want to be in terms of the character? How do you want people to see you? What do you want to do? Is there anything you want to contribute to this world? Is there anything you want to achieve? Not for the purpose of making money, although money is necessary, and I get that, but a lot of the things that would bring you happiness may not have to do with money. And the values upon which both of these things are based, what you want and why you want it. Very important to distinguish that. And if you just take a moment and write for yourself, you can write something as simple as Will Smith, make the world better. Just make the world better. Write it down, shape it every day, look at it every day, and think, how would you make this world better? It all begins with you. Begin with the end in mind. The third habit, put first things first. Organize and execute around priorities. As I said before, everything in life created twice, once in your mind and once in reality. When you put first thing first, you're actually creating everything twice. That's your second creation. So write your own program, write your script for your life. What one thing you could do, which you're not doing now, that if you did regularly, could make a tremendous difference in your business or personal life? Think about this. Think about something that would shape your life. There's another common question that is asked. What would you do in life if money wasn't an issue? Who would you be if you had no worries about money and you didn't have to work for money? What would be the one thing you do? I hope your answer is not just watching Netflix all day, because that's where the problem begins. So put first thing first. What is the most important thing in life? If you have family, I'm sure that would be the first answer. Your family is the first most important thing. So if it is most important, why do we focus on things that may not matter? Why do we spend time on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and watch movies and stay in bed and just do nothing? Take priority in important things. Do the important things first. That brings me back to manage your time. A lot of us really don't know how to manage the time. There's so much to do, and That's what brings procrastination, because there's so much to do. There is a way to manage time effectively. And actually, last week after my live on Monday, I got a text message from one of my former students who have watched my replay and said, I get that. And you're always talking about time management, but I don't know how to do it. Like, how do I manage my time? I need a step by step. Can you help me out? So my next lesson next Monday will be exactly on that. It's going to be a time management step by step guide, as much as I can, to help you put first things first. So you're going to organize things based on importance, and based on urgency. I'll go over those time effective management techniques next week. They must be principle centered. I'll explain more about what it is. They must be concise and directed. You want to know exactly what it is you're doing and define your mission. Got to know exactly what it is that you're doing. So to-do list, we'll talk about all that next week. Very important habit. Habit 4, win-win. Sees life as a cooperative, not competitive arena. So before we go into what it is, the first 3 habits talk about you and how you shape you. Habits 4 to 7 are really more interpersonal and relationship related. There are different type of relationships. Before we touch on win-win, let's touch on lose-win or win-lose. In a win-lose or lose-win, one person is winning, the other is losing, no matter how you look at it. And in that situation, this is lack of abundance mindset. Whether you are the loser or you are the winner, there's another person that's losing. It's not always beneficial. Another way is a lose-lose. Great example for lose-lose is divorce in court and paying attorneys for settling and dividing everything. Who's losing? Both parties are losing. One is losing more than the other, but they're both losing. So lose-lose is never a good scenario. Just win is a very selfish act. So if you are concerned only about you winning, that's pretty much selfish, not productive to anyone but yourself. And lastly, no deal, just neutral. Neutral is also not productive. So what I want you to focus in this habit is search for mutual benefit. And that is what it means by win-win. Win-win is a belief in the third alternative. There's always a way to make both people benefit. There is always a way that you can contribute to someone else by helping them as well. So a lot of us live in the world of competition. If your business is good, that means mine is bad. No, not necessarily. If somebody's business is good, you can lift them up. You can help them be even better. And in that way, you're not being harmed. Unfortunately, a lot of us driven by jealousy, driven by so many other factors, but seeking win-win really benefits all involved. So win-win requires 3 traits: integrity, maturity, and abundance mentality. Abundance mentality means you believe that there's enough for everyone. If there's a barber shop right across the street from you, thinking you're losing is a lack of abundance. So even though both of you are right across of each other, it doesn't mean you're losing. Make it win-win for both of you. Make it a win-win that both of you benefit, not one losing and the other is gaining. And there's so many examples of win-win. So when you adapt a mindset of win-win, you have to be, first of all, aware, self-awareness when you interact with others. Have imagination, concise and independent will. And to read more about it, there's so many examples, very nice examples explaining this strategy. Hopefully that would encourage you to go and read that book and just understand a little bit more about win-win. But in general, thinking win-win just shapes your mindset to understand that helping others win is actually your win as well. The fifth habit, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And I think a lot of us are guilty of that. We listen, but we first fast to judge and fast to respond. There's a great example to explain it. A father had an altercation with his son, and he comes to his friend and explains to his friend, my son doesn't listen to me. He's not doing what I'm telling him. So the friend responds, I thought that to understand something, you have to listen to them. So most people really want to be heard, but it is so much better if you listen to them. That is called an empathic listening. It's listening with the intent to understand, not with the intent to reply. I'll give you another example. Let's say your spouse comes home and says, I hate this job. Your first reaction, your first respond might be give a suggestion. So quit the job, or ignore, or say, I heard that before, or being any kind of response that not really listening to what they're saying. A better response would be to listen and maybe even repeat to your spouse what they just said and say, well, I understand that you don't like your job. Tell me more. Have the person open up to you and tell them their concern before you actually give your suggestion. In fact, don't give your suggestion unless you are asked for. Sometimes people just say because they want to be heard, and they just want someone to listen, not necessarily hearing their opinion, what they think about it, or what resolution they can give to you. Be a good listener. Be an empathic listener. So an empathic listener can actually hear the person speaking to you, reference back to the person, and allow to get the clear picture of what the person is saying. By repetition, this is called active listening. When you repeat to the person what they just said, really avoiding advice. Advice is not listening. Advice is a reply. The next habit is synergize. Once people have experienced real synergy, they have never quite the same again. Celebrate the differences. People are not supposed to be the same. They can be different, but using those differences for an advantage is going a long way. So synergy is better than my way or your way. It's our way. Collaboration. When you work in a team, teamwork is so much better than doing the work by yourself. A good example for this is, let's say you're making a table with one piece of wood. Do you think it's going to be strong enough for a lot of things you're holding, or would two pieces make it even better? And of course, three pieces would make that table so much better. So layer up. 1 + 1 sometimes is equal to 3, especially in teamwork. And lastly, sharpen the saw. An increasingly educated, concise will propel us along the path of personal freedom, security, wisdom, and power. The example that's provided is that sometimes we look for shortcuts and we don't do the things that are necessary, which actually do harm our self-improvement and what we are doing. Let's say you need to cut a tree and somebody comes to you and says, sharpen the saw before you do that because it's going to take you longer with this rusty saw. And your response would be, I don't have time. I have to do it right now. But just the fact that you're wasting time doing that activity on a non-sharpened or dull saw would already take a whole lot of time. So sharpen the saw first. That would cut your effort in so much more. So these 7 habits are really habits that help you progress. And there's so much more that I can say about these habits. It's the dependence to shape an independence, and then interdependence until you get to the renewal. The renewal refers to sharpen the saw. And if you go to the book and get more detail on that, because there's so much more that I can explain. But you start with what you can affect and change in you, and then how you can shape up the relationship, and finally, how you can adjust both of them together into productivity. So the dependence into the independence, that's habit 1, 2, 3. That's how you change the private victories, right? You develop your character and self-mastery. The independence to interdependence, that's the relationship with others. That's how your public victories appear, how you shape up the interaction that you have with other people and form trust relationships. So please remember, if you don't do anything else, be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Prioritize. Seek win-win solutions. Practice empathic communication. Synergize and invest in your continuous self-improvement. That's a summary for your 7 habits. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope this was productive for you. I think there's so much we all can learn from a book like that. And if we can just apply one thing before the New Year resolution comes, just one thing, we will have a much better world. Until our educational journey crosses again, always remember that learning is a gateway to a bright future. Hope to see you again next week. Bye.